Michael Wadden, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing
Hey,
today?
Daryl, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. Michael's
Good.
hailing to us all the way from California. And I know Michael. I got a chance to meet him through a wonderful individual, close friends of both ours, Katerina Satori. And Michael and I connected in such a way, it was amazing because we both were conscious connectors, and just it was a very conscious space we're in. And Michael goes out now and he works with conscious companies, small companies out there like Microsoft, maybe you've heard of them, right? And also a lot of mid-sized companies. And one of the things you were just sharing with me about how they set up a sales team in the sense of filling their pipelines for success with how many millions was that in 6 months?
30 million.
30 million, just a couple. That's a couple zeros, right? A couple commas in that number right there. So Michael, how did you go about becoming like a LinkedIn strategies expert?
So I joined this company a little over a year ago, and I was actively looking for a platform that could really help accelerate growth for companies, and I also was intrigued always with LinkedIn, and so I went through a pretty long evaluation process of looking for different companies out there, and I found my partner and the CEO called Link Strategies. And I actually found him on a LinkedIn summit that they were having, and he was interviewed like this format. And I connected with him. I could tell right away, that he just seemed like a real genuine, awesome guy. And I called him, and we had an initial conversation about this concept of approaching conscious businesses and a vision that I had. And he said his hairs stood up. He was like, that's exactly what I want to do, and at the time it was a real small business. It was about 4 employees. And, now we're on our way to almost having 15 and soon we'll have 20, and the next year we'll probably have 40, so we're growing super fast and having a blast.
Well, congratulations. I mean, you did something that people usually don't do, which you picked up the telephone. And then you got after it. I mean, the bottom line is you look to connect with other like-minded people, the entrepreneur you connect with, you guys vibe like right away. And now you've taken that business to a whole new level in such a short amount of time. Now, Michael, who gave you the authority that you can go out and do that, though? I mean, who said that you're going to be this awesome expert and do all these things and help all these people? Because oftentimes there's this confidence factor that goes with being an entrepreneur. I mean, where did you get your confidence from to do that?
So good question. I've always had confidence, so that wasn't lacking. But to really be an entrepreneur, fully an entrepreneur, I would say that this is really my launching pad. I was a senior executive for almost 20 years. At a company called Accenture, and so but I was also a frustrated entrepreneur inside of a large company. And then in 2012, I left that and kind of did my own thing. But I also just kind of, I went through a personal transformation, at the same time. And as part of that, kind of rebooted, really. Went through a full-blown, lost my marriage. A lot of things personally happened to me, which I look back now were just absolute huge blessings, in disguise. And that whole, transformation process got me to really embrace being an entrepreneur. I traveled all over the world and filled up, I don't know how many passports prior to all that happening. And so with 2 small boys, really my new purpose was to, be an amazing father. And then also, I got connected to this mission or purpose, I guess, around conscious business and making, that be, kind of an impact I can make in the world. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how that started.
Why is helping entrepreneurs become conscious business important to you?
Well, when I first started looking at, and I literally categorize this as an epidemic right now, but the whole corporate world, they say, at least this is the U.S. figures, 30% of all employees are checked out, meaning they really don't get out of bed in the morning and look forward to going to work. And so it's a huge problem, right? And actually the US is actually higher than many of the other countries out there. So it's a problem globally. And so employee engagement is at an all-time low. And that to me is a leadership problem. And so, the challenge that I'm taking on is to work with those companies who actually are getting it right. And they are inspiring leaders, and they're creating these cultures inside their companies that people thrive and they do jump out of bed in the morning. And so the way for us to move the needle on this is to actually work with those companies and help them grow. And that's our small way of contributing to, improving this employee engagement problem.
Mm-hmm. And why is it so important that you help these companies out there do what they do? I mean, you're a talented individual. You could do a lot of things with your time. Why is it helping these companies? Where's the passion coming from for you?
Yeah, no, in the end of the day, I think it came from when I was really struggling and broken and kind of looking at what is it that I want to do? What contribution do I want to give back when everything's all said and done and, I'm ready to check out of this world. What is it that I gave back? And, so a lot of deep spiritual soul searching in my heart around that. And then of course, then I got on a mission. And then I basically, took a charge to kind of say, okay, this is what I'm here to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And that's where, I teamed up with the CEO of this company, and now we've got an engine, to go help grow these companies. And now we're creating this very powerful intention to attract, other conscious businesses into our kind of orbit. And so, it wasn't something that happened just overnight, but it was something that I think evolved. But it evolved from my heart, not my brain.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations in finding that. Where was that point in your life where you decided that enough was enough and you were just going to shed the shackles, on all these things that were holding you back from stepping into what you're doing now? What were you doing at that time? Like, what was that deciding moment? You're like, enough's enough. I'm out of here.
I don't know if there was one very specific moment. I mean, I was really devastated, when my wife left me. And everybody, I think, has a really strong, solid breaking point, at some point, right, in their life. We all do, right? So, but that was a point, a low that I just opened up my, cracked open my heart and looked at, what is it that I'm going to do? For me, it was not traveling. So I needed to create a new livelihood for myself that, kept me local so I can take care of and raise my boys. And of course, I'm good at technology. I'm good at scaling companies. So it had to be in the skill set and the domain area that I'm good at. And then it had to align with, a new purpose and a passion of mine. And so, I kind of combined all that. And that's what led me to this. And then, but it was a really nice manifestation because it was something that, I knew I wanted to do something. It showed up. And then, I kind of knew I wanted this revenue generator, type of business. And I went out and found it. And now all of a sudden, stars are aligning and I'm letting go and good things are happening.
That's awesome, man. Again, congratulations for taking on that journey. And if you were sitting down with yourself at that point, and hell, you could be sitting down with me because I went through a very similar situation that you did. So I appreciate you sharing there, sitting there with the broken, shattered heart, having the marriage unravel, having all those things happen to me, just like that happened to you, man. So I've been there. So we've been.
I know you have been. No.
And I just want to say, I know you're an awesome father. I got a chance to spend some time with you last year, and that was one of the coolest things. You talked about taking your kids on like this vacation you guys were going to do together to go hiking and do all this cool stuff. I'm like, man, it's a cool dad. That's somebody that I want to have as like my friend. So I just want to let you know that. So you inspired me to do more things with my kids too.
I appreciate that. My boys are everything to me, and but I also know that they're very resilient, children, these days, and but I do appreciate that. I'm old school when it comes to my kids, so I ditched the television actually in my house, and so some people might think that's crazy, but I did it for myself also, because I like to now be able to just really choose, what I consume, and I don't like any kind of passive, media in my ears. And it actually forced, though, a really interesting dynamic with my boys and I, because we're just now board game, crazy. And it creates a lot of talking, we talk a lot. And so that's been fun. And then we're also, adventurers, we get out on ATVs and ride, and do, crazy stuff. And it's fun, so we're a boy house, and we like to have a blast.
What would you say to somebody who's sitting in that exact space in their mind? They just had their heart crushed. They're sitting there on the side of the road wondering, how do I put my life back together? Where am I going to go at this point in time? I don't know financially what I'm going to do. I'm not sure where I want to live. Like, if you were going to break through to that person who's possibly listening to this, you had a gift to give them, what would you say to them?
There is no one set formula. What I did was I really surrendered, and I also went on kind of a spiritual journey, and that was just huge, for me. I also used a lot of resources, So I had, spiritual coaches, energy, healer, whatever, right? You need to do to get the support and surround yourself, including my best friend, including my sister, who I'm very, very close with. So, for me, it's kind of building the support network and the tribe, around you to get you out of the initial dark tunnel. And then, when it comes to starting to fly again and, kind of find your wings, it's really, again, tapping into your heart. One of the things I've learned is our brains can really damage. If you listen too much to your thoughts, it can really cripple you. So for me, it's connecting, my brain and my heart together, and literally doing that in a way that now aligns your intuition with everything. And so now all of a sudden, I have a really different barometer when it comes to who do I deal with, who do I talk to, what energy circles I put myself into or not. My heart guides that now, not my brain. And so those are some of the little nuggets, I guess, of advice I might give.
That's huge. Get out of your head and into your heart.
Yeah, or integrate the both. We obviously need our brain, but a lot of times when you disconnect from your heart, you're only using your thoughts or your brains, then bad things tend to happen.
Yeah, that's huge, man. So what are some of the, how did it lend itself now to, becoming a connector and how you're using that in business to help people?
I'm just really fortunate and grateful that I've had, even in just the last 18 to 24 months, a string of relationships that I've been able to build and grow in just kind of the conscious business leadership world. Mm-hmm. And, like, for example, Blaine Bartlett, who's the author of Compassionate Capitalism, he and I were, on a board together. We just circles, right? And I live in Santa Barbara, and I happen to be in a really interesting little epicenter of, kind of socially liberal, but also, very entrepreneurial and socially conscious business, leaders. And also Ojai down the road, and of course San Diego down the way, very socially conscious community. And so I got connected very fast to, probably 25 or 30, conscious business leaders. And that's going to be kind of my catalyst for the Conscious Creators Television that I'm launching here soon. And, so my tribe formed pretty quick. It's one of those things, you put the intention out there. It's like, hey, this is what I want to do. And it's really interesting how quickly all those connections happen.
Mm-hmm. What have you seen as been the biggest things I look at a lot of times? Individuals, they'll allow their thoughts possibly have held them back from the past, but now they're blessings, like you mentioned earlier. What are some of the things that you learned along the way that turned into the blessings that you have today?
Where do I start? I think clearly the relationship, so the letting the marriage go, and understanding that is an absolute blessing. That opened my heart, right? So whereas a lot of people would say, oh, she broke my heart and all that, no, that she opened mine. So that was a huge awakening for me. It was a flip, right? It's kind of like, oh, you think that's she ruined my life. Not even close, right? I mean, if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be the person I am today. So that's one. I also had a really interesting professional situation happen towards the end of my career at Accenture. I actually lived in China for a year in 2011, which was crazy, wild. But the tail end of that was really quite an experience that I used to be able to say, oh my God, that was like the worst thing that happened. And now that is the biggest blessing that ever happened to me again. I mean, so many learnings, right, came from some not so fun things, right, that have happened in business. And so, I think that's the entire whole, it's an outlook on life now, right, that I have. And so instead of resisting or seeing something that is as that's really negative or that's bad. Well, all that is just a teaching, for me. It's just a new learning, life learning.
That's awesome. So, Michael, what are some of the strategies that people come to you right now that you're using with companies like Microsoft to help fill pipelines of $30 million in 6 months? What's a few of the strategies you could share with somebody they could put in their business today to help themselves, get to that next level where they want to be at?
So, our platform consists of email and LinkedIn, which, from our standpoint, those are two of the most powerful, platforms to be able to do targeted outbound, lead generation, which is the business we're in. And we do cold outbound. And so, what we found is some of the traditional marketing platforms that are out there, those are really designed to do the double opt-in, emails where, people give you permission. Whereas we build databases, from massive amounts of data that we pay lots of money for, and then do cold outbound targeted campaigns. So, if you are doing that, make sure that you find someone that, truly has kind of a purpose-built platform to help you do that, so you don't get blacklisted, and which is very easy to do in our work. And then it's really about, for us, it's inspiring. It's one of the things that we pay a lot of money for and spend a lot of time on is copywriting. In a strategy, we actually, it's not just copywriting, but it's actually who's the face of our campaign, which in our case is actually one of the senior executives of our clients. So we use what we call executive to executive model. And it's unique, right? But because our job is to inspire people, and our area of mastery is senior executives. And so, it's all about understanding the question, which is they have a problem, get yourself into their problem. What are you trying to solve? And then inspiring them. I like to say, we're really trying to be the TED Talk of email and social media for LinkedIn. And the way TED Talk, when you listen to it, it's different, right, than anybody else that you typically talk to. And so that's where we're, trying to aspire to get to. And it's about inspiring people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're saying the email marketing that you're using, from their individual platforms? This is a platform you guys created to help send out emails?
We actually built our own. So we have our own platform, and so we provide an outsourced, email and lead generation program for our clients. And then we, connect with their CRM platforms and integrate all the information about those leads into their world real time. Mm-hmm. And so, that's our model today. And then we also have a technology that connects to LinkedIn. And this is some of our secret sauce as well, is we have a platform that automates the connection and engagement process within LinkedIn, which, as most people, if they're using Sales Navigator, they know how manual that whole process can be, and hours that people spend every day on LinkedIn. So all you have to do is push a button in our system, and it automatically sends out 50 connection requests and then 50 engagement responses. So we've basically created an auto marketing system for LinkedIn, which is very powerful. And we've had that running for over 3 years now. We're on multiple versions, and it works very well. We don't promote it too aggressively. It's usually kind of an add-on to our email service, but it's very powerful.
Wow, that's huge. So you guys have that platform. Is that what? So just recap real quick. So you take the data that you guys harvest out there from different sources on the internet or other places, and then you are able to then work with a client, let's say Microsoft, for example, and then you send emails out to people through that service that you already have through LinkedIn, through doing the contacts, connections, and stuff. And as a result of that, you're able to build a sales pipeline for a B2B business. That's
correct. And we're, of course, representing the client, right? Yeah. In that case. So they're the face of the campaigns, not us.
Got it.
And then we've got a whole back end of our service to communicate when someone raises their hand and says, yes, I want to have a conversation with you, which is usually our call to action. We integrate in all the data from that prospect into their CRM application so they can, boom, execute those calls. Sometimes, though, as a new service, we'll be their inside sales team. And sometimes we'll actually execute some of those calls on behalf of some of our clients. And then when it gets qualified, we turn it over to them.
Got it. So you're basically able to get people's sales teams on the phone, making the closing the sales at that point. You're able to bring them all the way. In the Marine Corps, our General Mattis is maybe a lot of people know him now at this point, but he used to talk about, like, we will always put a bullet or a round in a place of a Marine any day. And you bring them, it's like suppressive fire. It's like you're going to bring them all the way from the beginning all the way to the end. So then it's like, okay, here's the sale. That's awesome.
Yep. And the biggest value of what we do is we guarantee our results. And so, when we develop a business case up front for every one of our clients, and then we say out of this number of leads, which is typically what they need to fill the gap between what they're doing today and what they need to achieve their sales objectives. And then we guarantee a certain number of those. And so that ensures they get their ROI out of the program. We don't do a cost per lead program, but we do guarantee a minimum number. So it's a strong proposition.
A minimum number of sales appointments of getting people on the phone?
It's a minimum number of people that have basically raised their hand and agreed to have a phone call. Okay. And we do have a service, though, as I mentioned, another kind of level of service that you would actually be booked calls.
Booked calls.
Yeah. So appointments actually scheduled.
With qualified prospects.
Correct.
Who would not take you up on that offer?
Well, it's the reason we're growing, Daryl. It's very powerful,
people, man.
I will say, though, it's a lot harder than it sounds. To do.
Oh no, that's hard. That's like 90% of the work is done at that point in time. To have a qualified person on the phone ready to go who just needs that initial final conversation. So yeah, that's huge, man. Well, congratulations on that. Who would be the ideal person to get a hold of you to take you up on that service? Like who are you looking for as far as ideal prospects or clients or business to business people moving forward? Like who would that, like if I was sitting down with them across from having a drink, a coffee shop or a bar, like I'm asking them about their business, who is this person you're talking to?
Sure. Well, first and foremost is we try to look for conscious companies. And so the two questions I usually ask is, why do people come to work for you, and why do customers buy from you? And if I hear usually a fairly inspiring, responses to those, then we're like, we're good to go. But we're really looking for companies that are building good cultures, for their people. So that's point one. The other is that can actually be a small little company, that's scaling fast, but typically has a fairly decent sized budget, for something like this. And then We do have some high-end coaches that can afford us and are actually crushing it with our service. But most of the time, the sweet spot client is probably 50 million and above mid-market companies. They've got, they're a national, if not global, company. Technology and consulting firms are, right in our wheelhouse, and ones where they have a sales team of, say, 4 to 10, people already, and they really need leads. They get a hungry appetite, for better and high quality leads. That would
how many leads would you be talking about in like a month per se? And like, what would be? I imagine you have different packages for helping people, with the amount of leads you'd be creating.
We do, and we typically it's in the 100 to a couple hundred, over a year, time frame. But we've got some clients where we're doing, over 100 a month. So it does depend kind of on the company, how many industries they're focused on, how many faces to the campaign we have. So there's a lot of variables to that, but usually it's per rep. You're looking at 10 to 20-ish leads, high quality leads a month.
Yeah, you mentioned you're selling things that are $50,000 and above, I think is what you were saying. I mean, you mentioned three.
Yeah, so our service
product. So it's that's a unique person who's going to be buying that. It's not like they're buying something that costs $1,000 or something like that. I mean, you're talking about major money here.
That's right. So for us, it's in the B2B space. They have a high value, right, high ticket item. So it's typically north of $25,000. Most of our clients are like in the SaaS software business or consulting, and their average annual revenue per client is usually it's north of $100,000, and or around that. And so usually our clients need 1 or 2 sales to kind of pay, for our service. So we're really trying, and we usually do a lot more than that, with them. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Any recommendations you would have for somebody who's sitting out there who's on LinkedIn or they're looking to do business with somebody like yourself?
I'm just a big believer in most small businesses fail because they run out of cash, right? Working capital. And the reason most, working capital dries up is because revenue, we don't hit revenue targets and you don't hit the sales. And most of the reason sales, don't hit is because you don't have a lead, a pipeline, right, of opportunities that come in. And so, whether you use our service or any service for that matter, it's just making sure that you're constantly working on lead generation. And, that was a big eye-opener for me. I wasn't aware of how big of an issue, this is to companies in the B2B space. 65% of the companies out there have big issues around lead generation and being able to really fulfill their pipelines. And so, whatever you do, I think LinkedIn is a great source for the smaller companies. And then, make sure you're absolutely getting some best practices around email. And, again, doing it yourself is good, but also looking at a third party that is scientifically, knows how to get people to raise their hand and, and get those calls with you. And also my advice is look for someone who can provide that guarantee. Today it's about performance marketing, and it's not just, hey, trust me. It's like, show me you can do this and back that up with real results.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, I appreciate you sharing that. What's your favorite business book before we let you off the hook here?
My favorite business book, Tools of Titans, I think right now is probably one of my favorites, but I would go back to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Daryl Carnegie. Without a doubt, man. It's all people buy from people. They always have and they always will. And so, relationships and connections rule the day versus tips and tricks and, how to manipulate people. I don't read those kind of books anymore. Again, maybe that's the heart side of me talking, but I'm into connecting. And I think Dale Carnegie, he wrote the book on that a long time ago.
He did. All right. Thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate you guys. Get a hold of Michael. Again, go to linkedstrategies.com, and you'll be able to connect with him on the business side of things. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Daryl. Likewise, pal. Take care.